Right. So welcome to the InstructLab community meeting for July 2nd, 2024. I think this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, almost the 10th meeting. Ninth meeting. Okay. It's been going on for quite a while. So glad to see so many people here today. We'll start off with the usual housekeeping items. Our meetings are governed by the InstructLab Community Code of Conduct, where you can find the link in the agenda doc and also on GitHub. And all the meetings are recorded and will be posted in the InstructLab YouTube channel. There's a playlist for the community meetings as well as a playlist for CLI meetings, and there are a few other playlists as well. If you want, in the agenda doc, you can also, I will also add that to the top of every meeting, both the video recording as well as the chat transcripts from the meetings or individual meetings. So because they're recorded, if you prefer not to be on camera, you're free to turn the camera on, off, or even dial in with the phone. And if you want to ask questions or comment or anything, please raise your hand. If you're on the phone, you can just speak up, it's okay. And we use the chat in the Google Meet. So if you want to chat rather than speak up, that's fine as well. You can use the chat functionality. All right, so let's get started. Oh yes, one more. So because of some upcoming deadlines and stuff, a lot of people will probably not be able to make the meeting next week. So we will not have this community meeting on July 9th. Cool. First, to share some new posts and videos and things like that. I think Suma is not here today. She was here last week, but she has 2 additional posts in about InstructLab. One is contributing knowledge, and the second one is to generate synthetic data and train. Let's see what it says. Generate synthetic data, train the model, and contributing to the model with InstructLab. So feel free to check them out if you're interested. And with the JJ and Paul Learning InstructLab series, we have 2 more videos this past week, both on using the Mac M3. So the first one is on installing InstructLab from scratch, and the second one is how to fine-tune a model on the Mac M3. So good stuff. I'll probably be watching them in detail because I'm using a Mac M3 as well. And there's also a playlist for this on both InstructLab channel as well as JJ's YouTube channel, if you're interested. Speaking of playlists, we have one more playlist that I just created for InstructLab at different conferences, so presentations and talks about InstructLab. And so the 2 recent conferences that we had was DevConf in Brno, Czech Republic, as well as AI Dev in Paris. So the videos have just recently been uploaded, so you can see them here. And the interesting fact is none of these have InstructLab in the title because most of these, the call for papers for the events happened before InstructLab was announced publicly. That's why we didn't mention InstructLab in the title, but they are about InstructLab. And this one is about using Podman AI Lab with InstructLab. So feel free to take a look. Before I go on, is there anything anybody would like to share? Something I've missed? Upcoming events, perhaps? Well, if not, JJ, you mentioned that you want to give a call out to the community to get people who might be able to help with, was it creating packaging installers for
yeah.
for Mac.
Sorry, I completely forgot about this.
Yeah.
So we recently put a dev doc in to create a Mac app for InstructLab, which also in turn could be a Windows MSI and a Linux bin, because as much as pip install InstructLab can get you distances, there's a lot of end user things we need to think about. So in the spirit of like Docker or Podman or pretty much any Mac app out there, the drag and drop, moving a .app file into the applications would help with our downstream adoption significantly. Problem is I don't know how to do this. I thought this was going to be a lot easier than it was, and I am swimming in very deep waters. So if anyone has any experience in this space, please reach out either through Slack or directly to me through all the different channels. I would love to collaborate and work on that. I'm completely learning from scratch here. So any advice or direction would be greatly appreciated.
Cool.
So if I may, we are already packaging Llama CPP and Llama CPP Python bindings for Fedora.
Okay.
I have no idea how we would do that, or even why would we do that for Mac, but we could possibly package InstructLab in the same way. It's reasonably simple to do. Since we are already publishing on PyPy, we can just grab the latest release from there and publish from that automatically. It's just a question of setting everything up. I myself am not, with all the privileges in the Fedora community, a person who can make their own package. But I know people who do and who did the Llama CPP, and I think this would be a good first try for publishing a Fedora package for anyone who wants to take it up. I can take it up myself if nobody else wants to.
Cool. Thank you. The idea is eventually to be like for the Mac app specifically. If you go to like Ollama and you install Ollama, you get the little Llama logo up in the title bar where you can have a little drop down menu and all that. The idea was we wanted to put the dog eventually up in that, right, for InstructLab, and be able to do a drop down of like ask quick questions, so it talks to the local model on your laptop, or like spin up I think it's called Open Web or Open Web UI or something like that now, which is a local website that talks to, it has context inside of it, so it like spins up a Flask server or something with the website.
I get that. That's similar to what Llama CPP kind of provides out of the box as the examples, and what Ollama does. That seems, however, more like a development of GUI application from more than just the packaging. Those are two different issues. Like if we want to package the existing CLI tooling, that's fine. That's easy, reasonably. That's a spec file and a review. If we want to make a GUI, I don't really know how we would do. I mean, like reasonably, it's not that hard, but like given the fact that I don't even own MacBook, I mean, it's to be perfectly honest, I don't really think like the InstructLab is the target audience are Mac users mostly. I mean, most of them are probably going to be Linux users, but that's just my opinion.
So Yuri, thank you for that. And for obviously speaking of for the Fedora community and going down that path, absolutely. But there is a whole group of people that want to spend their time in the space, and
I agree.
I'm trying to cater to them, because frankly they're not developers, right? There's a whole group of people who want to use this that are not developers, and having the easiest path into the community instead of doing a pip, because frankly most of them don't even know what pip is. Being able to drag and drop an app over would make life significantly easier.
You're probably right. still, I'm kind of like wondering if we would want those people at all.
No,
Sorry.
Consider those who are contributing knowledge and skills, not necessarily
Okay.
code to the CLI and
Okay.
Yeah.
You're right. Anyway, we can package it for Fedora, and then it may probably get into RHEL at some point, 5 years from now, given the cadence of releases. So yeah, Fedora packaging of the CLI, I can take a look at that. And I don't know about the GUI. Maybe, and I'm just like spitballing here, we could kind of integrate with an existing project for open source.
Yes, there's already
GUI.
one. Give me 2 seconds, and Carol, I'll get you the link here in a second.
Yeah.
sure.
Because
There is some effort on the GUI part.
Yeah, because what I'm thinking, like, if we're talking about putting it on everybody's desktop, like, how many icons related to language models are they gonna have at this point? There's gonna be Ollama probably. There's gonna be ChatGPT. There's gonna be Copilot for some, and although that's integrated in editors and whatnot. The point is, do we want to create another one that will compete with all of these established?
The answer is yes.
Then
why are we doing this? Right.
Well, I mean, if we want people to use InstructLab, wouldn't it be better to integrate with something that already has a mind share among people? As a plugin, for example, or something, rather than adding another full-blown application they have to learn and they have to maintain and update, and they have to kind of like think about, oh, I didn't yet put it in the InstructLab. But that's just me. Like, I mean, what are you thinking about it? Maybe that's something else.
So this, I think this conversation, this is the wrong forum for this conversation, especially being recorded, because there's a lot of spinning plates in this conversation that I'm not comfortable having this. But if you'd like to take this conversation offline, I can give you a little bit more details.
We are trying to make it accessible to all kinds of people, definitely not just developers or Linux users. I myself have been a Linux user for a long time, but because it's easy to get InstructLab up and running with MacBooks, so I'm now a first-time Mac OS user learning about Mac OS, and it will be helpful to have a installable InstructLab package. Even though I can do pip install, that's fine, but I think that there are other people who will gain from having this available, basically. And also, JJ, do you think creating an issue on GitHub would be easy to kind of collect different efforts?
So yeah, but that was kind of the original reason for that dev doc that I put together, but then it got merged. So I was like, okay, so we're gonna do this now. But how do we start? And that's kind of where we are right now. And that's why I wanted to bring it out to this community, because hopefully, like, you would think creating a Python app. Oh, okay, we all know the Python ecosystem is very choose your own adventure, right? We know that. But you'd imagine that there would be some ways to take a Python app and turn it into the different packaging mechanisms for all the major operating systems out there. And it turns out there's not. There's a lot of different opinions about doing it, but like py installer, or I think there's also come like py oxinate that's like built off of Rust or something, oxidized or something like that. They all have very specific expectations of applications underneath it, and not just what we're trying to do. So I have a feeling this is going to be a lot larger project than I originally anticipated, but I know I'm not the expert in the room on this, and I was really hoping to find somebody who either would like to go on this journey with me, or maybe have had at least step down this path and tell me where some dragons are.
I think it might make sense to either have a discussion in the mailing list, or perhaps an issue, so that other people can join and see who is doing what, and be able to help out. Cool.
I mean, it might just be an Ansible playbook by the end. I don't really know.
Yep, that's a possibility.
I would advise against that very much. with no, like, nothing against Ansible, please don't.
I I mean, there was back in the day with I worked for Chef Software, and we had something called Omnibus that could actually like write a chef cookbook inside of it and then do an install for all the major operating systems. So in my mind, I was going down that path, right? I was like, well, why don't I just like create the Mac version that creates the Omnibus package that goes along and does that. But obviously that is really old and not how we want to do it for this. And that's kind of where I was implying about the Ansible playbook story, is that there's got to be an Ansible wrapper of a way to install a bunch of dependencies and then turn it into a binary that you can install to make sure all the stuff was there for instance, a Mac. But I haven't been able to find that either. So it's been a very weird journey, and I know I can't be the only one who has gone down this path. And that's where I'm going for it.
If you want to install something on 200 computers at the same time, Ansible is for you. If you want to install it on one computer, you're picking up the wrong hammer. That's like, I mean, okay, I know about one project when we are doing that, but that's a malfeasance. It's not a good idea. Okay.
Okay.
There's also comments from Joshua in the chat. So this sounds like an architecture and design discussion. It sounds like a different forum might be better. So yeah, probably ping JJ on Slack and start a discussion somewhere. And also from an architecture point of view, a plugin approach is a good idea, especially if you treat your self-contained Mac OS executable a GUI that interacts with your own plugin. So open API compliant or what have you. And also Joshua gives a +1 to OpenWeb-UI.
Yeah, the idea was, you could be able to drop down menu and like open web UI, and you'd have now a conversation with the local LLM that you have on your laptop. Kind of like I think it's called Enchanted, is another one that's a Mac app that's based on Swift. They can be able to do this and then be able to, again, gain people who easy path in that is not a pip install.
Yep.
And Carol, I believe the UX team or UI team I was asking for them to put in a demo today. I think they're about to join us. I think they got the wrong time, so they didn't realize we were going on right now. So let me see. I'm pinging them right now. Let's see if we can get them in here.
All right. Yeah, I don't think I see that any of them online yet. All right, while we wait for that, do we have any updates or anything? Anyone like to share?
I could talk about the taxonomy tree real quick if you like.
Sure.
So there has been, give me 2 seconds here. Michelle Corbin. Michelle, are you on right now? I don't know if she is. She's not. BJ's here though. Let me put this in Michelle, or sorry, Carol, do you mind sharing this link and bring it up so I don't have to?
Okay.
I put it in the chat. It's 12:15. So if you've spent any time with the taxonomy tree, you probably recognize that we're attempting to try to figure out a way to organize everything, because one of the goals of our project is for people to add knowledge, right, and skills. So we have reached out to some people who have professionally done taxonomy trees, or being able to use taxonomy and be able to organize data. Kelly, I think I saw you join us too. Kelly's part of this also. And Michelle Corbin and Kelly and a handful of people have come together, and we have reorganized, or we're going to be reorganizing the taxonomy tree with the classifications of using the Dewey Decimal System. It is a globally accepted way to organize data. So when you pull down the taxonomy tree and you need to traverse it to look for information, it'll be a little bit more reasonable to understand where things are. We are still putting together some documentation around it so people can easily get through the information. But hopefully, if you can spend a couple moments to look at what we're doing here, and kind of build from it. Hopefully you'll understand that we are trying to do this for the greater good of our community, because organization of knowledge is hard, right? That's why librarians exist. So questions, thoughts? And I just saw Ming join. Ming, is Enola Brent going to join also? Do you know?
I don't believe so. There's another meeting in about 5 minutes, but I was under the impression that the demo for the community meeting was going to happen at 2 o'clock today. Is there not a meeting at 2 today? Is that?
No, this is the community meeting, buddy.
That is strange. The Google Calendar says it's at 2. Okay.
2 Eastern time.
2 p.m.
Yeah,
Central?
sometimes Google calendars are in like, the time zone that they were created. So it can be a little confusing.
I see. Okay, I will let them know. I think there was a miscommunication.
Should we punt the UI conversation to next week? Just be on the safe side.
I think so.
Next week we will have the meeting.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I could show a little bit of it and not do service to Brent and all who can show much more detailed, but I can at least do a walkthrough. Was that okay? Because I want people to be excited about this.
I am excited. I want to see something. So if you wanna,
okay.
Thank you.
All right, give me a second. I am not prepared quite yet. Let me set it up.
Is there a public UI meeting at this point?
Yes, there is. It is. It's on the calendar. It's on Wednesdays. And they've got a pretty good cohort of people working on it. If you don't know, the UI project is under UI and a repo, and it's all, I believe, done in TypeScript. So if you're a Node or a JavaScript person,
so perhaps we can also have it, because there's no community meeting next week. Maybe you can have it recorded at a UI meeting and just share it.
I believe all the UI meetings are recorded, and they
Right.
are being and I'm not too sure if they're pushing it into the YouTube channel quite yet, but they are available. So if you go to the UI channel, you can see it there. All right, so I'm not going to do a service. I'm going to do the best I can. This is only knowledge that I have. This is not full stream, full care. There we go. Maybe it's going up. Here we go. Here we go. So this is the InstructLab QA environment. And eventually, the production one will be ui.instructlab.ai. But if you notice here, there's this wonderful little GitHub user. If you are part of the InstructLab organization on GitHub, you have access to this now. So don't, if you can't get to it, I'm sorry. We're trying to find a way to gate this, because it turns out, come on, don't make a liar out of me. There we go. So it has a whole submission for the taxonomy tree. So as you can see, I don't have any submissions right now, which is fine. But we have an ability to contribute skills and knowledge, where we have noticed that putting YAML files in is hard for the mass public out there. So what we've done is we've created a way for you to fill out the skills and the Q&As and the examples through a simple kind of GUI, and then give you even the attribution and the text. And then you can either download the YAML. You can actually submit it directly to the organization. And one of the neat parts about this is that if you didn't know, with knowledge, you have to send a document along with it, right? And what we do is we end up creating a repo on the inside of your GitHub or inside of your GitHub namespace, and publish the document through this GUI to your namespace. So you are signing off saying that this is good to be for copyright laws and things like that, which is nice. So you can fill out the same knowledge stuff. And if you didn't know, normies don't know what git SHAs are, and git SHAs are required for us. So it actually fills out all of the Git SHA and all of this stuff when it creates the document up inside of GitHub for you. Right now, we support the Markdown documents, and very soon we'll be supporting something else, but I don't want to jinx it, so we're not going to talk about that, which is pretty cool. Also, when you do have Jimmy, great question. That is a conversation. Jimmy just asked how do you become a member of the InstructLab organization? There is, right now it's a paid organization, so we have to think about a way to get people in for that. We don't have a process quite yet, but we will be very soon, and we'll probably create a public one for people to have access to this kind of stuff or something along those lines. So don't worry, that's coming very soon. Another important part of this UI too is that we have access to the full models, which is another reason why this is gated at the moment, because the full models cost money to run, but it has full access to Granite and Merlinite too. So you can actually, instead of talking to the quantized model locally, you can actually talk to the full model through the GUI too. As you can see, this is just the beginning. It's coming together, but we are very excited about what's coming down the line here, because one of the challenges of us building this project out is that we're going to need knowledge submissions from people that are not engineers. And we've designed this to, granted, it looks very engineering right now, but the idea is a way for people to communicate, to be able to not have to worry about the sharp edges of YAML and submitting through GitHub, because frankly, we almost can't even assume people have GitHub accounts with those people we're trying to reach out to. So that's a quick little whistle stop tour. Hopefully at least made somebody interested or helpful. Go ahead, Carol.
So if somebody doesn't have a GitHub account, they can't. Well, at least for knowledge submission, they will need a GitHub account to have the document.
Because of that, yeah. As of right now, we would, if we were doing this, for instance, at a workshop, right, and you are a random person coming in as a workshop or at a conference, we would ask you to sign up for GitHub, because we need a place to put the document inside to be able to pull from it. So you'd have to set up a GitHub account. So we'll end up teaching people how to set up GitHub accounts, and then they click on this button and they fill out the form letter, and then they submit the knowledge, and then we create the repo inside of your name, because now it's under your name. It's not in our name, which brings up interesting copyright issues and conversations. But if it's under your name, we can reject it much easier, and that makes things a little bit safer for us. Or at least that's the plan right now. We're still going through, like, this could change. This is fast moving project. Again, I'm saying stuff because this is what we are right now, but it could change.
Yeah.
But hopefully, did I answer your question, Carol?
Yes, thanks.
Yep. Joe, go ahead, buddy.
Hey, so yeah, I'm just curious, like, what is the difference? What would you like to see, JJ, in like an app that you would install that's different than this? And I'm thinking partially about the idea of, like, you know, if this was a lot of the functionality, you know, you could package it up as an Electron app or something if that was of interest.
My initial image of this is what I was describing earlier, which is I want the little dog up in my title bar, and I'll be able to click it, and I want to say ask quick question or have a conversation or quit, right? And that idea is that I want to be able to pop up a little modal and ask it something simple, because then in theory I could put Coder inside of there, right? I could use Granite Coder, and I could have a conversation about code that I'm working back and forth with. And or if I have a long conversation with it, because I have now the API up and running, I could tie in VS Code or Vim or whatever to it, and be able to actually interface with it there. I want a way to run the iLab serve locally, and then have a really simple GUI that I interface with it like all of our other competitors right now. I see it as kind of like a buddy, if you will, sitting in the corner that I can just ask questions to. And instead of having an Electron app, which is a rather heavy-handed thing, where I'd have to have it up and running all the time, this is kind of like, hey, I'm over here, and it's a safety blanket. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you wanna chat more than like tune and contribute and that stuff.
For the on the laptop, yes. But the UI I just showed is designed for interfacing with the taxonomy tree specifically, because that's where the rubber meets the road, as we keep saying, right? Like we need an easy path for people to be able to put things into the taxonomy tree. Otherwise, we're never going to really build this farther than a glorified way of running upstream model, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Cool.
Yeah. And I believe I actually have to run too myself. So if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on Slack. And then
Yes.
I'll say bye.
Thanks, JJ. Thank you. Bye. All right. Thanks to JJ for the demo. And as this is recorded, so if you missed some details, feel free to check back on the recording when we make it available today or tomorrow. So, let me share, continue the agenda. Is it sharing? Okay. Okay. Well, this show and tell was kind of more of a social thing, but is there anything else? Any topics to discuss or questions you might have about InstructLab in general? Anyone, perhaps? Well, if not, I think 2 meetings ago, someone suggested to have something fun also at these community meetings, and one of the suggestions was to share about your favorite sci-fi book. So I don't know if anybody has prepared anything and would like to share it. To kick things off, I will share mine. It's I don't have the physical book because I used to, when I was a teenager, I used to go kind of rent. Well, besides library borrowing books, but also there's this like book rental thing where you like pay 5 or 10 euros when you get the book, and then when you return it, you get 8 euros back. Actually, dollars. I was in US, Singapore at that time. But anyway, so I it's a way for me to read more books without having to buy them all. So I don't have the physical copy of the book, but this is the link. It's called The Boy Who Reversed Himself. I think I read it when I was like 10 or 11. And this was, I know it's a children's book or young adult, whatever you call that, and it's kind of simple, but it kind of sparked my interest in learning and reading more about multi-dimensions and even like multiverses and things like that. So it talks about this boy who can go into the 4th dimension, and when he returns from it, he's mirrored, like his image is mirrored, and things taste different to him because supposedly the molecular structure is mirrored and or reversed. So I just thought it was interesting, and it kind of got me interested to read about other stuff, not just science fiction, but also other scientific writings and things like that, research and things like that. So that's my book. The one I read didn't have such a colorful cover, which also lends to making me like try to imagine what these so-called different dimensions would look like and feel like and things like that. So I thought it's an interesting book. So that's my story. Does anybody else have something to share? Or all right, Costa mentioned in chat 3 laws of robotic. That's cool. And Thorsten equality land. Okay, let's see. I'll add them to the meeting minutes, so also people can take a look. Would you like to talk a bit about that, Costa?
Actually, no, thank you. Just you asked it, and I remember that I've read this book when I was in the school, and it's book. The books tell us what to do with artificial intelligence.
Cool.
About artificial intelligence, and there should be rules for artificial intelligence not to harm human.
Wow, that's really nice.
So it's now it's came to be true.
Thanks. I have to check it out. Thorsten, would you like to say something about the book?
Sure, I can do. I mean, this is a science fiction book with a lot of like satire, parody in it. And so, for example, when a big company sells you books, they come with drones, and you have to directly, when you get the package, you have to make your comments how much you like the stars. And if you don't give 10 stars, you have to write a 2 pages excuse why not. So that's why everybody does this. And he also wrote in his book about the social numbering system. Like if you buy the wrong stuff, you're going points down and up, and who you have to meet with. Like, and he was a little bit earlier than when it actually kind of happened. And so it's a mixture of these Black Mirror ideas, but in a funny way. But it's a lot of things in it. So I like it. It's pretty long, and he's hitting a lot of points which partly became true at some point, or at least were discussed about. So
I caught my attention. Kafka's travails of a scrap metal merchant. Okay, nice, interesting premise. Thanks for that. Yuri or Lisa, would you like to share about your book?
I guess I can.
Yes, please.
So it's like kind of like debatable how much it's a science fiction, because for the most part the the character, the protagonist, doesn't even realize he's living in a future from our perspective. He's extremely unreliable, almost by himself. He describes himself as mentally ill. And the problem is that he lives in a world that has sort of fallen back technologically and socially to the point where he thinks he's living in a tower. He's actually living in an old spaceship that's positioned, vertically. And he seems to be blissfully unaware of like difference between spaceships and regular ships, to the point where like to him it's about as impossible to get from his continent as to the moon, which, by the way, in his time period has been terraformed. And he doesn't see anything. At one point, he sees a picture of astronaut on the moon. And he's like, that night overlooking a battlefield, that's certainly a grim scene, because he doesn't know that moon used to be just barren wasteland. So yeah, it's interesting. It's a first part of the new sun cycle. It's very good. It's very good, but
Cool.
extremely difficult to read.
Thanks for introducing us to that. Lisa, would you like to mention about this time travel? Oh, that's always interesting.
Yeah, the Outlander series, a lot of it's really historical fiction, but there's this whole the whole way the book starts is a World War II nurse travels back in time accidentally to just before the Jacobite rebellion in Scotland. And at first she doesn't realize that she's time traveled. And so she's talking to these people like they're characters in a movie set because that's what she thinks she stumbled onto. And slowly she comes to realize that she's in the past. The books are very thick, but they're very readable. There's 9 in the series so far, and she's working on a 10th. So
Wow.
and they're published in multiple languages.
Oh, cool. I think there's a TV series or some.
Yeah, but the TV series roughly follows the books, but not exactly follows the books.
Mhm.
The major story plots are the same, but there's a
Mhm.
whole lot of detail in the books that never makes it to the TV.
As usual, yeah. I'm sure the books are much better, interesting read for sure. Thanks. I have to check this out. Wow, about 10, 9 volumes. That's quite a lot. Cool.
Yeah, but start with the first one and see if you
Yeah.
like it. Then if you do, go on from there.
Sounds great. Thank you. All right, that's a lot of cool stuff for us to read in case we're waiting for InstructLab to generate stuff, data, and train. We can do some reading along with that. All right, is there anything else anybody would like to comment on, suggest, ask questions? If not, thank you all for this very interesting meeting this week. Remember that we won't be around for next week for the meeting, but we will resume again in 2 weeks. So and I'll share the recording so you can get the details in case you miss anything, and feel free to continue the chats on Slack and join us again in 2 weeks. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone. Take care. I'll stop the
Thanks,
recording now.
Carol.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.